Loyalty is a funny thing. You give it freely, pour it out like water into the hands of those you trust, believing they'll cherish it. But some people don't hold loyalty like a treasure. They wield it like a weapon. They saw your loyalty not as a bond of trust, but as an opportunity to take. They twisted it, stretched it, used it until it no longer served them. And when it broke, when you finally saw the strings, they acted like it was your fault, as if your loyalty was the problem, not their greed. Being loyal in a world of opportunists is a dangerous game. You gave your time, your energy, your heart, all in the name of loyalty. But loyalty is a mirror, and their reflection didn't match yours. While you were steady, they were shifting. While you were holding them up, they were climbing over you. And now you're left wondering how you missed the signs. The way they only came to you in need. The way they turned their back when the tables turned. But hindsight isn't regret. It's revelation. People love loyalty as long as it serves them. They crave your support, your presence, your dedication. But the moment loyalty becomes inconvenient, the moment it demands reciprocity, they flinch. They rewrite the narrative to suit their needs, casting you as the overgiver, the fool, the one who should have known better. But let's be clear, your loyalty was never the problem. Their inability to match it was. And that's a reflection of them, not you. Loyalty isn't about blind allegiance. It's about mutual respect. You gave because you cared, not because you were naive. But they mistook your kindness for weakness, your devotion for compliance. They thought you'd always be there, that your loyalty was infinite, unbreakable. What they didn't realize is that loyalty is not a contract. It's a choice. And choices can change when the scales tip too far. They thought they had you figured out, didn't they? That you were just someone who would keep giving, no matter how much they took. But loyalty doesn't mean tolerance. It doesn't mean enduring disrespect, manipulation, or betrayal. The line they crossed was drawn by their actions, not your loyalty. And when you finally pulled away, they cried foul, as if they were entitled to your devotion without earning it. It's hard to walk away when you're loyal. It feels like betrayal, even when you're the one who's been betrayed. But loyalty to others should never come at the cost of loyalty to yourself. You stayed because you believed in them, in the bond you shared. But belief doesn't make betrayal hurt less. It doesn't change the fact that they used your loyalty as a crutch, a convenience, a shield from their own inadequacies. Walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's recognizing that loyalty isn't about how much you can endure, but about how much you value yourself. You gave enough. You tried enough. And their response? To take advantage, to use, to manipulate. Walking away isn't quitting. It's reclaiming your power. It's showing them that loyalty without respect is no loyalty at all. They'll try to spin the story, of course. Paint you as the villain, the one who abandoned them. They'll overlook their actions, their greed, their failure to reciprocate. But their narrative isn't yours to carry. You don't owe them an explanation, an apology, or a second chance. Let them weave their tales. The truth will linger in their silence when no one's left to believe it. Loyalty isn't a weakness. It's your strength. The problem was never your loyalty. It was where you placed it. And now, armed with experience, you'll place it with care. Because loyalty given to the undeserving is a lesson, not a regret. It's a reminder that your devotion is a gift, not a given. and only those who value it should ever receive it again. Loyalty is a double-edged sword. It can be your greatest strength or your deepest vulnerability, depending on where you draw the line. Without boundaries, loyalty becomes a fertile ground for exploitation. When you give without limit, you invite others to take without consideration. They don't see your loyalty as a treasure. They see it as a resource to be mined until there's nothing left. And the worst part? They never stop to ask if they've gone too far, because you never told them where too far begins. Boundaries are the guardians of your loyalty, the invisible fences that protect your emotional and mental well-being. Without them, you become an open door, inviting people to walk in and take what they please. And they will take your time, your energy, your kindness, until you're drained. Loyalty without boundaries isn't generosity, it's self-neglect. It's giving so much of yourself that there's nothing left for you. Exploitation doesn't always look like cruelty. Sometimes it wears a smile, cloaked in gratitude and charm. They'll say things like, "I don't know what I'd do without you," as if those words are payment enough for your sacrifices. But loyalty isn't a currency to be spent at someone else's convenience. It's a mutual exchange, a bond built on respect and reciprocity. When that balance is missing, what you're giving isn't loyalty, it's surrender. Boundaries aren't walls, they're windows. They don't shut people out. They give others a clear view of what you're willing to offer and what you're not. Setting boundaries doesn't diminish your loyalty, it enhances it. It ensures that your loyalty is valued, not exploited. And those who truly respect you will honor those boundaries instead of testing them. People exploit because they can, not because they deserve it. And without boundaries, you give them permission to continue. Every time you say yes when you mean no, every time you put their needs above your own, you reinforce their belief that your loyalty has no limits. And limitless loyalty is a dangerous thing. It's an invitation for exploitation, disguised as devotion. Loyalty without boundaries is a losing game. It leaves you exhausted, resentful, and unappreciated. You find yourself pouring into relationships that give nothing back, hoping that your sacrifices will one day be recognized. But hope isn't a strategy, and recognition doesn't come to those who allow themselves to be taken for granted. Boundaries are what transform loyalty from a weakness into a strength. Setting boundaries is not a betrayal. It's an act of self-respect. It's saying, "I will be loyal to you, but I will not lose myself in the process." It's understanding that your well-being matters just as much as theirs, and that true loyalty is about balance, not self-sacrifice. Boundaries ensure that your loyalty is given to those who deserve it, not those who demand it. Exploitation thrives in the absence of boundaries. It feeds on your willingness to overextend, to give more than you have, to put others first at your own expense. But when you set boundaries, you starve exploitation of its power. You take back control of your loyalty, your energy, your life. And in doing so, you reclaim the respect you deserve. Self-awareness is your internal compass, the tool that guides you through the murky waters of relationships. It allows you to assess not just what you're giving, but what you're receiving in return. Loyalty, when reciprocated, is a beautiful thing. A partnership built on trust, respect, and mutual support. But when it's taken for granted, it becomes a one-sided sacrifice. Without self-awareness, you risk confusing exploitation with connection, mistaking their convenience for care. When you're self-aware, you start to notice the patterns. Who reaches out only when they need something? Who disappears when you're the one in need? These aren't just isolated moments. They're reflections of the dynamic you've allowed to exist. Self-awareness helps you see these imbalances for what they are. Signs that your loyalty isn't being valued. It's the first step toward reclaiming your energy and ensuring it's spent on people who truly deserve it. Reciprocity doesn't mean keeping score. It means balance. Self-awareness helps you recognize when that balance is missing. You gave your time, your support, your unwavering presence. But did they do the same? If the answer is no, it's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their inability to meet you where you stand. And knowing this allows you to make better choices about where to invest your loyalty. They may tell you that your loyalty is appreciated, but words are easy. Actions are what matter. Self-awareness helps you see the gap between what they say and what they do. It shines a light on the empty promises, the unfulfilled commitments, the way they lean on your loyalty without offering theirs in return. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You can only decide what to do next. Loyalty isn't about giving endlessly. It's about giving wisely. Self-awareness teaches you to ask the hard questions. Is this relationship serving me as much as I'm serving it? Am I being appreciated, or am I being used? These questions are uncomfortable, but they're necessary. They force you to confront the reality of your relationships and make choices that prioritize your well-being. It's easy to lose yourself in loyalty, to give and give until there's nothing left. But self-awareness is your anchor. It reminds you that your loyalty is a gift, not an obligation. It helps you set boundaries, say no when you need to, and walk away when your loyalty is being exploited. It's not about being selfish. It's about being smart. When loyalty is reciprocated, it feels effortless. There's no questioning, no second guessing, no resentment. But when it's taken for granted, it feels heavy. Self-awareness helps you distinguish between the two. It helps you see when your loyalty is building something meaningful and when it's being drained by someone who only takes. And in that clarity, you find the strength to choose differently. They took advantage of your loyalty because you allowed it, perhaps unknowingly. But self-awareness changes everything. It turns unconscious giving into intentional action. It ensures that your loyalty is reserved for those who earn it, who value it, who reflect it back to you. And that shift is transformative. Self-awareness doesn't just protect you from exploitation. It empowers you. It gives you the tools to navigate relationships with confidence, to identify red flags before they become patterns, to choose connections that uplift you instead of draining you. It's not about giving less. It's about giving better. Saying no is a revolutionary act for someone whose loyalty runs deep. It feels counterintuitive, as if refusing a request means abandoning the very principles that define you. But true loyalty doesn't demand self-sacrifice. It demands self-respect. Learning to say no isn't a betrayal. It's a boundary. It's a declaration that your emotional and mental well-being matter just as much as the needs of those you care about. They took advantage of your inability to say no, mistaking your silence for consent. But now, you're learning that no can be the most loyal word of all. Loyal to yourself. No isn't rejection. It's clarity. It defines what you're willing to give and what you're not. When you say no, you're not turning your back on someone. You're refusing to carry a weight that was never yours to bear. Loyalty doesn't mean breaking yourself to fix someone else. It means showing up when you can, in ways that are sustainable for you. Without that balance, loyalty becomes a burden, a source of exhaustion instead of connection. People who exploit loyalty fear the word no because it breaks their illusion of control. They thrive on your compliance, your willingness to bend, your reluctance to refuse. Saying no disrupts that dynamic. It forces them to confront the boundaries they've ignored, the limits they've overstepped. It's not about punishing them. It's about protecting yourself. No isn't a wall. It's a line in the sand, a reminder that your loyalty has limits. The beauty of saying no is that it filters out the takers from the givers. Those who truly value your loyalty will respect your boundaries. They'll understand that no doesn't mean you care any less. It means you're prioritizing your well-being. But those who sought only to take will reveal themselves when your refusal doesn't serve their agenda. And in that revelation, you gain the clarity you need to move forward. Saying no is an act of self-preservation. It allows you to conserve your energy, to focus on the relationships and commitments that truly matter. Loyalty without balance is unsustainable. If you give until you're empty, you have nothing left for yourself or for those who genuinely need you. No is how you ensure that your loyalty remains a gift, not a curse. No is powerful because it shifts the narrative. It says, I choose where my loyalty goes. I choose what I give and to whom. It takes the power away from those who seek to exploit and places it firmly in your hands. It's not about control, it's about choice. And choice is what transforms blind loyalty into intentional commitment. The first no is always the hardest. It feels like betrayal, like you're letting someone down. But with each no, you learn that loyalty isn't about saying yes to everything. It's about knowing when to say yes and when to say no. It's about balance, about preserving the integrity of your relationships and your own mental health. No isn't weakness, it's wisdom. No doesn't end relationships, it clarifies them. It shows you who respects your boundaries and who doesn't. It strengthens the bonds built on mutual respect and exposes the ones built on one-sided expectations. They took advantage of your reluctance to say no, but now you're rewriting the script. No is your new language of loyalty, one that prioritizes your well-being. Learning to say no doesn't make you less loyal. It makes you stronger, wiser, more intentional. It ensures that your loyalty is reserved for those who value it, who reciprocate it, who deserve it. And in saying no, you're not just preserving your emotional and mental well-being, you're reclaiming your power. Loyalty is often misunderstood. People believe it's something owed, something automatic, simply because of shared history, proximity, or sweet words whispered at the right moments. But loyalty isn't a birthright. It's earned. It's not granted because of who someone claims to be or the time they've spent in your life. It's earned through actions, through consistency, through the quiet, unspoken moments that prove they value you as much as you value them. They took advantage of you because they assumed your loyalty was a given. But loyalty without merit is just blind faith. And blind faith often leads to betrayal. Actions are the only true measure of loyalty. Words are cheap, proximity is incidental, and gestures without follow-through mean nothing. Someone who shows up only when it's convenient, who promises more than they deliver, isn't loyal. They're opportunistic. And the sooner you recognize this, the sooner you can protect your loyalty from those who haven't earned it. Because loyalty given without discernment isn't noble, it's reckless. When someone assumes your loyalty without proving theirs, they reveal their entitlement. They think your presence is guaranteed, your sacrifice is automatic. They expect you to carry the weight of the relationship while they bask in the benefits. But loyalty isn't a one-way street. It's a partnership, a mutual agreement to support and respect one another. Anything less is exploitation disguised as connection. Consistency is the foundation of loyalty. It's not about grand gestures or fleeting moments of kindness. It's about showing up, time and time again. It's about doing the hard work, even when it's inconvenient. Those who value your loyalty will prove it not with words, but with unwavering actions. They won't just talk about being there for you. They'll be there, without being asked, without expecting anything in return. Proximity often clouds judgment. Just because someone is always around doesn't mean they're loyal. Proximity breeds familiarity, but familiarity isn't the same as trust. People close to you can take advantage of you just as easily as strangers. Sometimes more so because they know how to manipulate your sense of duty. True loyalty transcends proximity. It's about integrity, not geography. They thought your loyalty was theirs to claim because you never made them earn it. But now you understand that loyalty isn't an endless well. It's a guarded treasure. And those who wish to share in it must first prove they deserve it. That proof doesn't come from grandiose declarations or temporary niceties. It comes from consistent, reliable, and selfless actions. Boundaries are essential when determining who deserves your loyalty. They force others to demonstrate their intentions, to show through actions that they're not just taking, but also giving. Boundaries filter out the opportunists and reveal those who truly care. They may grumble, resist, or try to manipulate you into giving more than you should, but a boundary isn't cruelty. It's clarity. Loyalty given without merit becomes a liability. It drains you, leaving you with less to give to those who truly deserve it. But loyalty given to the deserving is a source of strength, a bond that uplifts both parties. It creates relationships built on mutual respect, where no one feels taken advantage of, and no one has to question where they stand. They took your loyalty for granted because you let them. But now you're changing the rules. Loyalty isn't free, it's earned. And those who value you will rise to meet your standards, while those who don't will fade into the background where they belong. It's not cruelty, it's self-preservation. Weakness has a way of masquerading as strength. Those who exploit the loyalty of others often do so from a position of insecurity, not power. They cling to your loyalty because they lack the courage to stand on their own. They siphon your energy, your time, your devotion, believing it fills the void within them. But exploitation isn't nourishment, it's poison. Weak people take and take and take, but in the process, they rot from the inside out. It's a law of life. What they gain in the short term, they lose tenfold in the long run. Exploitation is the tool of the desperate. They see your loyalty as a resource, not a relationship. To them, you're a well they can draw from endlessly, a foundation they can stand on without contributing. But their weakness is their downfall. Exploitation is unsustainable. It breeds resentment, destroys trust, and leaves them more isolated than before. The loyalty they drained from you becomes their own undoing, a hollow victory. Strong people don't exploit. They empower. They understand that loyalty is a shared bond, not a resource to be hoarded. Weak people, on the other hand, see loyalty as a means to an end. They manipulate, guilt, and take advantage because they can't stand on their own 2 feet. But exploitation is a house of cards. It collapses under the weight of its own greed, leaving them with nothing but the ruins of their manipulations. Their exploitation reveals more about them than it does about you. It's a reflection of their inner emptiness, their inability to build genuine connections. Weak people don't exploit because they're cunning. They exploit because they're afraid. They fear being alone, being vulnerable, being seen for who they truly are. And so, they cling to your loyalty, draining it in a futile attempt to fill their void. The cost of exploitation is degeneration. They may gain in the moment, but they lose in the long term. Relationships crumble, and their facade begins to crack.